The invitation from my daughter was specific. Come at 7, not a minute sooner. I sat in my car just around the corner from her house, the engine purring softly, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. That text had arrived 15 minutes ago. 15 minutes of me trying to decipher the hidden meaning in those 6 carefully chosen words. The last time I'd seen my daughter, Clara, was a tense confrontation in my office. She'd demanded a significant investment for a business venture I couldn't support. When I refused, the door slammed on our relationship. Now this, an invitation with a precise time. I killed the engine and checked my watch. 6:58, close enough. The walk to her front door felt longer than it should have. The house, a modern Tudor I'd helped them secure, stood imposing and silent. I raised my hand to knock, but the door swung open before I made contact. Clara's smile was a little too bright. Dad, you're here. She pulled me into a brief, stiff hug. Her husband, Leo, stood behind her, his handshake a fraction too firm. Good to see you, Richard. The air in the foyer felt heavy, charged with an unspoken tension. He guided me into the dining room, and the scene made me pause. Candles flickered on an impeccably set table, laden with my favorite dishes. It was a perfect picture, but it felt staged, like a set designed to sell an idea, not share a meal. This is quite the welcome, I remarked, taking a seat. Family doesn't need an occasion, Clara said, her voice a little too airy as she poured a deep red wine into my glass without asking. We began the awkward dance of dinner conversation. Leo leaned forward. So, Richard, how's the portfolio? Still holding on to that coastal land? My internal alarms, quiet until now, began to blare. Why was he asking about that specific property? The 40 acres of waterfront I'd bought as a legacy asset. It's secure, I said carefully, breaking a bread roll. Why do you ask? Just making conversation, he replied a little too quickly. Clara's smile remained fixed as she refilled my glass again, her hands trembling slightly. They were performing, and I was the audience of one, waiting for the third act to reveal itself. The conversation felt like a carefully rehearsed interrogation disguised as small talk. I wanted to believe in forgiveness, but my decades of reading people screamed that this was a distraction. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. The vibration was subtle, but Leo's eyes snapped toward the movement, his face losing all its color. Clara's wine glass halted midway to her lips. I retrieved the phone with deliberate slowness, their panic becoming a tangible thing in the room. 2 messages from Ben, my groundskeeper. The first, Mr. Vance, are you home? The second turned my blood to ice. Movement inside your house. Lights in your study. Should I contact the authorities? I read the words twice. Someone was in my home, my study, where I kept everything. I stood, the chair screeching against the floor. I have to go. Now. Leo was across the table in an instant, his hand clamping onto my forearm with shocking force. Wait. Just 5 minutes, Richard. Please, let me explain. I stared at his grip, at the pressure points on my skin. Explain what, exactly? My voice was dangerously calm. Why you needed me here at 7 on the dot. Why you're so interested in my coastal property. His expression crumbled, confirming my deepest, most unwanted suspicion. The mask was off. Clara moved to block the doorway, the gracious hostess gone, replaced by a cold strategist. Betrayal doesn't always come from an enemy. Move, now! The authority in my voice, honed over 40 years in boardrooms, cut through the tension. Her eyes widened, but she didn't budge. Leo's grip tightened. You don't get the pressure we're under. The debts. You have so much, and we have nothing. You decided to steal from me, I stated, typing with my free hand. Call the police. I'm on my way. Ben's response was immediate, already dialing. If you had just helped us when we asked, Leo's voice cracked into a plea. I wrenched my arm free, his fingers leaving angry red marks. I pushed past Clara, not with violence, but with an unstoppable resolve. She chose to step aside. Leo followed me to the foyer, his justifications tumbling out. The guy we hired is a pro. Nothing would be damaged. We'd pay you back from the profits. I stopped at the front door, my hand on the knob, and turned for a final look. I know what you did. The silence that followed was an admission of guilt. I walked out into the cool night, leaving the door in our relationship open behind me. A different man had arrived with a bottle of wine and a flicker of hope. That man was gone. It was a 25-minute drive to my house if I pushed the limits. I calculated it automatically as I sped away, watching their home disappear in my mirror. The pieces locked into place with terrible clarity. The specific time, the probing questions, the performance. They had used family as a weapon. They had been wrong about the man I was. This was no longer about anger. It was about justice. My phone buzzed. Ben, police are here. Caught one person inside, waiting for you. I set the phone down. The speedometer needle climbed. They had made their choice. Now I would make mine. Some lines once crossed can never be uncrossed. Red and blue strobes painted my house in frantic colors. I pulled in behind a police cruiser, my hand still locked on the wheel. Ben stood on the lawn, his face a mask of relief. The front door was open, a casual violation. Officer Miller, a woman with a sharp gaze and a no-nonsense demeanor, met me. Mr. Vance, we've secured the scene. I need you to walk through with me. I followed her inside. The violation was methodical. Dresser drawers hung open. My mother's jewelry box was empty on the nightstand. In my study, the desk had been rifled through. I moved to the wall safe behind a false panel. The door was ajar. Inside, the gaps were glaring. The deed to my coastal land, I told the officer, my voice steady. 40 acres. Current value just over $1 million. Her pen stopped. Someone stole property documents. They did, I confirmed. The back door lock showed fine scratches. Professional work. The security system had been disarmed, not broken, from the inside. I knew I wouldn't need to check the logs. I already knew who had been here days earlier for a casual visit. The police finally left in the early hours. I sat alone in my study, the laptop glow illuminating the darkness. I pulled up the security system log. There it was, a disarm command from 3 days ago. User, Clara Vance. She had hugged me when she left. I picked up my phone. 17 missed calls, 12 texts, each more frantic. Dad, please call. This is a misunderstanding. I scrolled with detachment, then found the business card for Evelyn Reed, an attorney renowned for asset protection. I dialed. Evelyn Ditt Vance. We worked on the Harbor View merger. I need to discuss urgent estate protection. Call me. Dawn was approaching. The house felt cavernous, but I didn't break. I started making lists. What was gone? What was vulnerable? What needed to be done? The transformation was beginning. My first meeting with Evelyn was all business. I laid out the facts, the refused loan, the orchestrated dinner, the theft. I showed her the security log. You haven't filed charges? She asked. Not yet. I want to protect what's left first. She nodded, approving of the strategy. 3 steps, a new will, a living trust to shield your assets, and we document everything. How long? The will by tomorrow. The trust, 48 hours. We need to move fast. I hired a forensic financial analyst, Maya. Her reports were devastating. Clara and Leo were buried in debt. They had signed a lavish office lease days before the theft. Clara had contacted high-end pawnbrokers, inquiring about selling specific items. My items, weeks earlier. The premeditation was staggering. They hadn't just seen an opportunity, they had built the entire trap. I used this information. I made quiet, professional calls to their landlord, their bank's compliance department, and business associates who referred them clients. I didn't make accusations. I simply stated public record facts about the criminal investigation. The dominoes began to fall. Their loan was called, their lease was terminated, their client pipeline evaporated. My new will was signed. The living trust was established. My assets were locked away in a fortress they could never breach. They showed up on my porch, desperate. We're family, Clara pleaded. You're sitting on a fortune while we drown. I looked at her, no anger left, just cold finality. You are the ones who chose to drown me to save yourselves. I closed the door. The competency lawsuit they filed was dismissed in 15 minutes. The criminal case ended with a plea deal, probation, community service, restitution. Their professional licenses were revoked. Their house was sold. Clara filed for divorce. I took my entire estate and placed it into a charitable foundation to fund education for underprivileged entrepreneurs. It was irrevocable. I had built something permanent from the ashes of their betrayal. Life moved forward. I closed deals. The foundation awarded its first scholarships. One recipient asked what inspired it. I learned that integrity is the only legacy that truly lasts, I said. My phone sometimes rings from unknown numbers. I don't answer. The time for words is over. The work continues. The life I built, protected, justice served, boundaries maintained. If you were moved by this story of justice and rebuilding, please like this video and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more tales of navigating life's toughest challenges.